Welcome to the Look Good Move Well podcast.
Talk to us about your new sauna, and your new love of Finnish culture.
Well, it's your old sauna is my new sauna.
Sick.
Perks of the job, man.
It's got the upgraded heater.
Yeah. You know, the funny thing about it is that I was talking to my best friend and about this recently, and when that sauna was delivered, I was not at home. And so I came home one day and it was just magically like there in my backyard. I knew it was coming that day, but it was the best thing ever because I live on a super steep driveway on this really difficult street. It's like one lane. It's super hilly. It's like trucks cannot like navigate this at all. And I have been part of so many stressful struggles of like furniture trying to get delivered, like different things. And so like to just come home one day and like I didn't have to like, I have no idea how they got it in there.
Not a crane. I can't.
Yeah.
It was like up steps, like over a fence, like no idea. It's a complete mystery, but all of a sudden it's there and it is magical.
That's how it was for me when they moved that thing in, moved that out of my old backyard. I was like, how did this happen?
Yeah. Yeah.
It is magic. It is
magic.
Freddy's
Pool and Spa.
The pool and spa. They know how to move saunas and hot tubs.
Yep.
I mean, think about that with my hot tub. Like they did
Yeah.
that. Like the thing is a lot bigger than that sauna.
Yeah.
Now, if someone were to tell you, like, if it's like, okay, the research is out, saunas are actually not good for you.
Screw you.
There you go. I like it. It's kind of like that. It's like people with their coffee. It's like coffee's bad for you. You're like, I don't care. I don't care. Screw you. I'm drinking it.
Oh man, I make a coffee. This is like my favorite thing to do now on the weekends. I make a nice coffee. I turn on the sauna. I get in there with my book and I'm just chilling with my coffee and my book in the sauna. It is just so pleasurable, man.
I love it.
Yeah.
I'm so glad that you're getting that in.
Oh yeah.
And then the cold plunge is not.
I'm not in there yet. I'm saving that for summer.
Good move. Good
Yeah.
move.
Yeah.
Well, your love of sauna has re-inspired me to get back in my sauna more regularly. So thank you for that. It's
Oh
been-
yeah.
it's been
Happy to
nice.
share the love. I mean,
Yeah.
if you've got a sauna, you got to take advantage.
That's real. It's
Yeah.
been, and this one gets, it gets a touch hotter. Mm-hmm. And it's a little bit more spacious so I can lay down.
Nice.
And it has the old the Wi-Fi technology for the heater, so I can just set it and forget it. I could actually set it right now from right here to start at 4 p.m. so that when I'm home at 5, I'm like in there and it's just good to go.
It's ready to go.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, got a good big shout out to Plunge at Plunge, I believe is the
At plunge.
at Plunge. No, I think they were like, they came to market with like the first mass market cold plunge, and then they started developing the sauna, got the new plunge sauna. So plunge sauna, plunge cold tub combination. It's pretty magical. It is not inexpensive. So, it's not for everybody, but if you set aside some dollars for it and you save up for it, is a huge, huge upgrade to, and these things are outdoors. Like, we don't live in like extreme climate, but like this thing can sit outdoors. It's totally good. It's good to go.
Yeah.
Outdoor sauna is the way, and the dry heat is what you want. You do not.
Yes.
I'm not a fan of the infrared. I haven't.
Yeah, me neither.
Been able to ever feel like I got a good dose out of an infrared sauna.
Yeah, I don't know. There's just something about it. Those fins know what's up.
Yep. Yeah. So at the end of 2023, we talked about some fitness trends that we were like, hey, I hope this one dies, or I think this one is really going to take off in 2024 more so than it did in 2023. And we're into the new year, and
Yeah.
I would say that it's going in the direction we had projected.
We're so good.
And I think the way I said it was, I look forward to, like the flexible dieting community is going to really continue to like take charge
Yeah.
here. And by flex, I mean, I don't want to bastardize flexible dieting because it is a term that is connected to a very particular approach to eating, something that was more or less coined by Alan Aragon. And but in general, it's, you know, there are a lot of different types of foods out there. There are foods that like you should kind of stick to most of the time, but there's nothing that is like so bad and so detrimental that you should never be able to have it. And that if you can be flexible with your approach and not binary, this is good, this is bad, I can't have this, I can't have that, that the more flexible approach is much more sustainable, more fulfilling, keeps you happier, keeps you less angry, keeps you less pissed off at the world for not being able to have the thing that you love.
Yeah.
And you can see tremendous results. And that was something that I really leaned into heavily last year was, all right, let me just test all my assumptions, like, and all of my belief systems around food, you know, that have been built up for years. Like, okay, I can't have this because I'm allergic to that, or it's not good for my gut health, or, you know, if I eat this, then that's going to spike my blood sugar, or I got to stay away from that. Or when I go and eat out, like, I have to always make exceptions and, you know, substitutions because I can't just eat what's on the menu because it doesn't fit the thing. And all right, let me just really try and flip the script on this, you know?
Yeah.
And it was interesting because I got some heat from people who saw me posting about eating some different types of foods. Like recently I started making Ninja Creamies, and I'm taking Jello pudding, sugar-free Jello pudding mix and putting it in there. If you look on the Jello pudding mix ingredient list, it's not, you know, it's going to scare some of those folks out there who are like, oh my gosh, you put in disodium bisulfonate, like you can't even pronounce that. I'm like, well, I just did pronounce it, but no, but it's like, I'm making light of it, but I get it. Cause I was there. I was like, don't put any of that, like you can't pronounce those ingredients. Like there's red dyes and there's weird things in there. It's like, you don't need any of that. And you're like, okay, you're right. Like I can understand that. And the 10 grams that I'm putting in my Ninja Creamy a few nights a week is not the thing that's going to kill me. There's a lot other things going on here. And really it's not even just me, because maybe I've optimized a lot of things, and so maybe that is the worst thing I'm putting in my body, but the vast majority of people, that's not the worst thing they're putting in their body.
Yeah.
You know, the thing that's causing major problems is that they're eating way too much. And so having a Ninja Creamy at night with a good consistency that's got a little artificial sweetener in it, that's got a little bit of, you know, food colorings added to it, but that only gives them 200 calories for a whole pint of protein-rich ice cream that makes them feel satiated and feels excited about their diet and to keep going the next day. Like, in that's the theory, is that that's the win that they need, not to be told that they're like killing themselves by having, you know, trace amounts of red dye number 7 or whatever the number is.
Yeah. And what did you discover after adding some things back in and testing your assumptions?
Well, I definitely learned that, you know, through the course of a chunk of 2023, like I was in great shape physically. Like I felt I was strong. I was highly active. I had as good a body composition as I've ever had. When I did my blood chemistry and my blood work, I was as healthy as I've been in a long time. You know, best lipid profiles, best hormone levels that I've had. You know, you name it. I would leave room for like sugary cereal in my diet. I was having candy. I would eat out, have pizza once a week. I would be fine going to the convenience store and getting a Ghost energy drink, you know, with all manner of who knows what's in there. Tastes delicious, 0 calorie and lots of caffeine. It was awesome. Like,
Great.
You know, I'm trying to think of like what other like it was like there was nothing that was off limits, and I'm not, and I didn't achieve like those health metrics and physical metrics and, body composition by accident. I was highly disciplined in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
Like I moved a lot. I counted my macros. I tracked my training. Like I did all the things, but I made room for all the stuff that was like off limits. The other thing that like, I challenged my assumption on, okay, well, like it was a year of me being like, okay, I'm going to go back to being relatively low fat. Like I had been a moderate to high fat person for a number of years. And then I like saw the objective data, like, oh, like my LDL cholesterol has gotten considerably higher. And the hypothesis that I'm not, like based upon my genetic markers, like I'm not good at metabolizing saturated fat as well as maybe others. And so I need to be mindful of that. So I started eating a lot more low fat and non-fat things that I had in years past. Like I was like, why would you ever eat non-fat anything? It's like the fat's good for you. It's like, it is good for you. And there's a point at which having more fat in your diet might not be good for you. So how do you control for that? Well, one way to control for it is getting non-fat Greek yogurt. Like, okay, I'm eating non-fat Greek yogurt and I'm putting sugary cereal on it. And it's like, oh, that's terrible. Like there's, I had Fruity Pebbles. It's like, well, look at all the things that are in there. And it's like, well, I also had a ton of meat today and a lot of vegetables and a big ass salad and all of this fruit and these whole eggs and all of these other things. They're like, well, why would you eat whole eggs and then eat non-fat? I'm like, because if I eat 2 whole eggs, I get the amount of choline that I want in my diet for the day. I get some saturated fat. I get some cholesterol. I get quality things, but I don't need more of it. I get a lot of fat-soluble vitamins. I don't need more of it. I don't need 10 of those. I'd rather go and get my other fats from avocado, from, other foods in my diet. Maybe the protein bar that I'm having has some added fats or some, maybe I want to cook, make a salad dressing with olive oil and, and the meats that I ate today, even though there was chicken and there was a little bit of lean steak, there's still some fat in that. So it's like, you can navigate these things the way you want. But if you want to have exceptional results, you got to be very disciplined and understand all the inputs that you're having. But even if you don't want to have exceptional results, you want to just have good results, like then even more the reason to just say, hey, you know what? Any of these things can go.
Yeah.
I also this thing that the other one is that I was gluten-free for a long time.
Yeah, I was wondering about that.
And ultimately I was like afraid of just eating too many carbs. And I didn't really know, when I took out gluten, I took out a bunch of carbs and I had good results. And I was like, oh, okay, well, gluten, that was a good move for me. If I take out gluten, I have better body composition and I feel better, right? Very, subjective on the feeling, objective on the body composition, but it's like, okay, well, those two things, I'm not going to touch it. There's also, enough evidence, and it's plausible that gluten could be, on the physiological level, like damaging, gut endothelium. So like the single cell lining of your digestive system, gluten can have, and some of the proteins, in wheat and wheat products, some of the amino acid chains in gluten are really hard to break down, and they can kind of persist as like these short peptides that can loosen up tight junctions in the cells, which can create some leaky gut. So it can damage people's guts. Certainly people that have clinical celiac, who are clinically allergic to gluten, they have dramatic reactions, which then when you have this permeability of your gut barrier, leaky gut, you get this hyper-inflammatory response, which then creates this whole like autoimmune cascade and can be really problematic for people. So that's physiology. I have this little, benefit that I felt from not eating it. Okay, I'm not touching it because like, look, it's causing this problem. It must be causing this problem in me. Like this is, but maybe the reality is that like I do okay on some, and I was just having success because by avoiding it, I was cutting out a certain group of foods that led to calorie restriction, and that was the benefit. So, again, like, why don't I test that assumption? What if I have a little bit of gluten in my diet? So I kind of started introducing some of that last year, and lo and behold, it was like, what I learned is that, I still have a suspicion, like maybe I have some, gut permeability issues that go on with gluten. I don't know. I haven't done any like allergen tests or, recently to see if I have like a lot of, gluten antigen in my bloodstream. If I did, maybe. But I could control for some of these other variables. I could be like, well, if I'm going to eat more gluten containing like products, like more wheat or some pasta or a pizza, like, then if I'm controlling for the amount of calories I'm getting in other places, and I'm getting a good balance of my other macros and food groups, like from a body composition, performance, and just like mental clarity standpoint, I didn't notice any difference. I did notice the fulfillment of eating gluten. I was like, oh, that's delicious, So I didn't like suddenly start having diarrhea or like really bad bouts of. So it was just like, okay, let's experiment. Like, there's no rules that are universal. Like, some people can do well. Other people, they start to eat gluten and they start to get rashes on their body. Yeah. It's like, hey, if that's happening to you, you got some autoimmune things going on, and you're probably better off not having it most of the time. Like, if it's a real pain point for you, like, at some point it's like the pain of having these rashes all over, like eating gluten causes psoriasis for you. Like, the pain of having psoriasis is worse than giving up gluten. You get to make those choices, but, and the autoimmune cascade that people go down through can have other health implications down the line, which I would be concerned with, and therefore I might avoid it, but I'm not seeing those for myself. And it's like, I needed to kind of just test that assumption. I'm not necessarily going to do that forever, but it's an exploration.
Yeah.
So sorry to get on like a tangent on the gluten thing, but just exploring some of these things, like what's working, what's not. There's a food that I absolutely love, cheese. I am like, if I could eat, when people ask the question like, what's the one food you could eat that like, if it didn't cause anything bad, like what would it be? And for me, it's like cheese. Like, cheese is really dense in saturated fat, and I have kind of found out that I have a threshold of how much saturated fat I can have in my diet without my like bad cholesterol is kind of going really high. Mm-hmm. That is something that matters to me, just because of the total coronary artery disease risk factor that it increases.
Yep.
So I'm just mindful of it. And it's like, I used to be able to like just crush like, 5, 6, 7 ounces of cheese. Like,
I remember your log of goat cheese days.
Yeah. Like, and I'm like, well, that's kind of, I just have to be a little bit more conservative about that. I can't be doing that 4 days a week, 5 days a week anymore.
Are there any assumptions that you wouldn't test? Like, I was driving home the other day and I passed a Jack in the Box, and I was like, God, when is the last time I had like Jack in the Box or like McDonald's or like, like I'll go to In-N-Out maybe once every year or two, but I'm just not, like, fast food is just not even on my radar.
Oh, I wouldn't test an assumption that doesn't give me pleasure. Like,
because me too.
I'm like, hey, let me go and like see how much, McDonald's like chicken sandwiches like affect me. It's like, I'm not really craving a chicken sandwich from McDonald's. I am curious about a chicken sandwich from Chick-fil-A. I am curious about a spicy chicken sandwich. I'm curious about like, okay, well, what if I had In-N-Out once a week? Like, I like In-N-Out. I'm definitely down for a double.
You want to go for a double?
Let's go. I've been watching. Hot Ones is like our favorite show. Yeah. Have you seen Last Meal?
No.
Mystic Kitchens, I think is the Mystical Kitchens, I think is the channel. It's kind of a Hot Ones show where they have celebrities on and they like, what would be your last meal?
Yep.
And they actually make the last meal and they do this like 20, 30-minute interview.
Uh-huh.
So the last 2 or 3 that I've watched have all of them have had an In-N-Out burger. It's on everybody's menu. The one that I just watched was with Tom Hanks. It was excellent, but
That's funny.
So, but yeah, like are there any other that I wouldn't test? I've tested a lot of things, and I want to continue to test them, but it's an interesting thing to like test, okay, what's something that I know would bring me joy that I've said no to a lot over the years because I'm like, it's not good for me.
Right.
That's the stuff that I think is worth testing for everybody. It's like, you like French fries? Like, how can French fries fit, And sometimes, like, I know there's things that I can make fit in my day and I know how good they are, but I just still don't do it because I'm like, in order to make that fit, it's going to be harder work for me on the back and the front end of the day than I really want. It's like, yeah, I could go and have like a bowl of cereal in the evening, but that, like, in order to make that fit, I gotta cut this much out or that much out, or I don't get to have this. The thing that I'm making fit all the time these days,
Popcorn.
Like, this is something I want. I think this is a good piece of content. It's like, imagine a world where you could, and I'm just like filling my face with popcorn, like where you could eat like this every day and still, see, reach your goals.
Yeah, I'm gonna write that down.
Yeah, it's like,
Yeah.
why are we kidding ourselves that this is not possible? It is possible. It's like, but you have to be really aware of like the full 360 degree implications of all of this. It's like, how can those like French eat so much cheese and wine and all this stuff?
Pastries.
It's like, because they don't eat that much of it. Is this like blowing your mind right now? It's like they eat cheese and wine and croissant like all day, every day. It's like, no, if they did that, they would be obese. They eat a little bit of it every day. And because they eat a little bit every day, they don't treat each croissant like it's their freaking last meal where they need to have 10 of them. It's like, they're the flexible dieting, OGs.
Yeah,
right?
that's right. That's right.
Have you never mind. I'm not gonna. That was a big rabbit hole tangent I was about to go down, but save it for later.
We'll save it for later.
Yeah.
Well, I wanted to just ask what the thought process is if you are maybe in that boat of someone who gets nervous around certain categories of foods, or you realize, hey, it's been like 20 years since I've had a piece of toast, or like, what is the thought process that led you to just be like, hey, I'm going to go test that out and see if I can be a little bit more flexible about what I'm eating and a little bit more open-minded about the big picture here?
I think it's my nature a little bit, but also just the curiosity of life. It's like, I don't know why this has been such a big year for me, this midlife year.
Yeah.
My parents and Megan are like, you're not midlife. I'm like, can we Google the definition of midlife? Because if you do, I'm right there. Like, I'm middle-aged, like average life expectancy, 78, 79. I'm 39. That's in the middle of 78 and 79.
It's called middle
Middle
age.
of the age. Anyhow, it's just sort of like, look, life is not forever. It's not, there's no guarantees. And, I highly value like certain things about my health and my physique and my training. And, this is not to say like, well, fuck it, we're all going to die. So why are we eating In-N-Out burger every day?
Right.
But it's like, on the flip side, it's like, eating chicken and broccoli, and Diet Coke for every meal for the rest of your life to just keep calories low and keep fat low, like because you believe that that's the only way to succeed in your health and fitness or stay, optimal. I would hate to get 10 years down the road and be like, oh, that was a big mistake. Actually, that was totally not real. Like, that was kind of a lie. That was a culture that pushed me that way. I believe so much in consistency that because once you establish consistency doing anything, you either are having you're either moving towards success or you have all the information that you need to make the tweak to get towards your success. So it's like if you consistently measure this thing for a month and you like by tracking it, you either see that you're doing the right stuff or you're doing the wrong stuff, but you have the data, then you can make the change, right? And this is in anything in life, but food is no different in what you put in inputs to your body. So it's like, okay, well, let me, we can wait till the research study comes out to tell me that this thing is real. But like, what if I just apply this to myself? And again, test assumptions, because I would rather find a way to optimize while being fulfilled and experiencing lots of joy than optimize and like try and convince myself that like, oh, I don't even like that stuff. I don't need that stuff.
Yeah.
Like, it's the, and there's truth to it for some people. They're like, hey, when you're like eating well and you're like in the good rhythm, like you don't need the cakes and the things.
Yeah.
It's like, it doesn't even appeal to you. It's like, I totally get that. Like most days I am not jonesing for a donut because I know that a few donuts or, half a box of donuts, like the next day is going to feel pretty awful. For me,
Right.
Maybe the next 3 days. So, but it's also a bit of an exaggeration to be like, I never want to have any of that stuff for the rest of my life. There's a few robots out there like that. They're like, I never need to do that for the rest of my life. I'm going to eat this, and this, and that's it. It's like, okay, but that's not everybody. It's not most people.
Like the chickpea and an egg guy on Reddit. He eats chickpeas and eggs like every single day for lunch for like 10 years or something.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Everyone makes fun of him. He's like, I like it.
Hey.
But what I was thinking about is when we were training a little bit earlier with Shauna and we were talking about how it's a little embarrassing if we like go somewhere and visit friends or family and we go out to eat because we all eat so much and we eat so much protein.
Yeah.
It's like not normal.
Yeah.
And we're talking like our strategies to like get the protein in like before we go out to eat or after or something like that. But I think that sums it up for me because it's like, the life that we live optimizing for health and fitness is not the normal life that most people in society are living. Yeah. We are doing some things differently. And we're doing those things differently because they work and they're effective and we feel good doing them. But it also doesn't mean that we hold ourselves back from participating in life and like going to the meals with friends and family and eating the thing and showing up and having that balance.
I have in my past kept myself from doing that.
Yeah.
And that was, just to go back to the question, like, why is this the time to test that? Because it's like, well, because I see that for a period of time in my life, going against the grain and not allowing myself to like participate in what was the culturally acceptable and the norm was the way that I was going to teach myself a different norm and make that my pattern in my life. It was, I needed to say no to more things than yes.
Yeah.
And that was a phase of my life. And now maybe I'm moving out of that phase where it's like, I'll say yes to more stuff and see how much, if at all, it pulls me away from my foundational principles that have guided me forever. Or for the last couple, 10, 12 years, 15 years.
Yeah.
And then it's like, what am I afraid of if it does? If I do get pulled towards this and I'm like, oh, life is happier and more fulfilling this way, and I'm still a top 10% healthy individual on this planet.
Yeah.
I heard a very interesting quote today, which was like, what is average? Well, the average American is obese, has type 2 diabetes, is divorced, and doesn't have $1,000 in their bank account.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, so doing the norm, kind of accepting the norm, is a pretty sure bet to get you to that average. And that's why for years, my stance was like, I got to fight against average. I got to fight against the norm. I got to fight against this. And I got to like kind of push the extremes to sort of like establish a baseline that's different. And you might be if you're listening, you might be there in your journey right now where it's like, I don't want to hear about this flexible stuff. I want
Right.
to freaking know like what's the best thing to optimize right now, because I got to establish my anchor points, because I don't want to be average. And that's great. Like, we have lots of content on that coming your way and in the past, and you can learn so much about optimizing here. But then there's also maybe the phase of life where you're like, look, I'm doing good. Like, I feel good about myself. And at certain times I feel like I'm missing out a little bit.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, well then let's challenge some of those assumptions and see if there's a way to introduce things that you have written off, but do it in a way that doesn't actually take away from, how you want to feel and the results that you've worked so hard for.
Yeah. Beautiful.
So that concludes our discussion for the day. And I wanted to say that this episode topic was inspired by a post that I saw by a creator who I would encourage you all to go check out. If you are on Instagram, his name is The Fitness Chef, at The Fitness Chef. And he has a channel, at The Fitness Chef _.
Ooh.
And he is a British gentleman. All the good creators these days are British or like Scottish or Irish. They all have an accent.
Yeah,
and
they
everyone's
are.
like
There's some Scottish guy that's always going viral on fitness
he's
videos.
hilarious.
Yeah, he's good.
the wolf.
Yeah.
Tom something. Yeah, I like him. I'm like, I just need to I was like, that could be our strategy for 2024. If I just
Set our
work
content
on
strategy,
work
work on
a
your
Scottish accent.
Crush
Oh
it.
man, I just need to go watch a bunch of Braveheart. It always gets me in the mood for that. Anyhow, check out the Fitness Chef _ 6. The post was 6 things that mean you've been duped by diet culture. So if he brings a lot of humor to his educational content. Anyway, go check him out. Thanks for joining us. If you have questions on this particular topic, we'd love to hear them. Or if you have ideas for how you'd like us to approach content and topics in coming episodes, we'd love to hear those too. Slide into the DMs of either myself at Marcus Philly or Satya's DMs at Satya Khan. See you next time.
We'll see ya.